Good evening. Welcome to Omega Live TV. And then a special program about NPPUK Hour. Our former president, Jerry John Rawlings, joined our ancestors on 12 November at the age of 73. And then in the programming, we will share some light about our former president and how NPP remember this very popular statesman. In the programming, Mr. Eric Ajiman, secretary to the Council of Elders, NPPUK, and a programming. Mr. Ajiman, what you saying?
I'm at that room. I was saying. Oh, cool. Say, we can. I had an idea. No, I said, we follow traffic regulations. Now we making sure so you don't go beyond 20 mph.
Thank you. Thank you. And I feel so on my left here, so Mr. Citizen Oseusu, our part of NPP communication team UK. Citizen, long time ago.
Cooler. I had the answer. Oh, it's Shadan Chess. I Yamati, I shall for Amana to say, oh, friend, I mean, but I recall himself a few times. I was supposed to be on the program, but due to I need to chrome her, you can't keep to schedule because of one or two things. But and then they not send a TV, and there was a member. Now, you bet on ex-president Jerry John Rawlings, because Ghana's history cannot be completed without him, regardless of whatever.
Yeah.
So
now, after you calling to have your say, and whatever you want to know, and answer whatever you have to say, please call in at any time. Bibia uwa upesa ukano about Papa Jano, and then the lines is open, and the number is on our screen. Just call in and have your say of condolences or anything that you have to say. Now, May 15th, Mr. Ajimai, 15th of May, 1979. Now, Saturday, Tuesday. Many Ghanaians say it's a day not to be forgotten in the history of Ghana. Oh, Saturday Rawlings here saying, well, this is 31 years old. Can you tell our audience what you know about Rawlings and the story of May, 15th of May, 1979, and how they developed?
Oh, thank you very much. May 15th, 1979. So I'm not a student at the University of Ghana. Na that time, no, not a kufu. You know a kufu.
Because you're a student now, you have a
that time, no, Nana, the Kufu, I Pali school, I power free, the champions. Na or prepare the country to hand over to civilian administration. In fact, that cut just about 5 weeks. Na your co-elections. And yet they say, so therefore be a try say a moment mutiny. The word they used was mutiny.
Okay.
A man friend coup. Na yache officers be. They could try warm. You know, I was a student in so those days, you know. So what is say there is this news of a change be a neighbor. Sabi ya to one no na at the yempe military regime dada. Na could be babe pam warm. Na ye di ho abobo sa kusi say you take say papa you did not court. So therefore the friend court martial. So a court martial honor, and in fact, if I remember, the presiding judge, now would the assembly near fellow Colonel and info. Na my own good friend, Flight Lieutenant Timo that time ono na o prosecute Rawlings. In fact, that for Rawlings also, but he was doing the prosecution. Inti ahonom no na wɔkyerɛ di ntia nanka opese otu akufo no aban no egu. Na enoma okekaye no na ebi ne say first was say the junior ranks, the junior officers of the Ghana Army no o maketua na omo sanka no to say the eseba, you know, to say Mahama time, no, doctors, omo 3 years, no money, akatua 3 months, you know, that kind of thing. 80 Rawlings say no amuko at that time, no, okufri yokogari, ena odie na itua ne ka na okwa kotua yokogari ni no eka. Ena no no so feel say despite say yentimi ntua o mka no, we share the lifestyle of the members of the Supreme Military Council, say General Kufu, Kute, Feli, they were living opulent lives, you know, which indicated in some ways they be very corrupt officials. In fact, he saw them as very, very corrupt, you know, senior officers. Now, corruption, you know, has led to poor governance, which has also translated into serious economic problems. There is general frustration among the Ghanaian population, and that has also affected discipline, both in the army and at the workplace. Nti oma dwene senka omo ba ababeye kuwa pamonkrofui normal rectify all these things. Na kasa ne nyamu no na Captain Boachija, the Ubi Antinidin was at the planning. But the Chile, and yet say, oh, Sir Rawlings, what Boachija, and initially almost planning cool. Them say Boachija, disappointed on the day. What happened? Or no Kofani Suja for. So I know Air Force man. To find the Suja for no see Uncle 5 p.m. So I could be camp with that. And only the last one. You know, now that time, no, not the what we call the strong unit, I 05BN, not Wachijane commander. Okay. Inti, having told Nadam for said, "Give me person me no one say Okofadwa, Ubenya support us also 5BN, Nankomodia Yomakun. Unfortunately, Okoye na Wachijane ho. So no Johnny was so. Was she done with free hope? No, ni ho. Yama, Jericho, no, a failure. And on the coming, it's a rifle crowd, or the fear forming and the rifle started in the to but my camp a tour. What is happening? What is happening? I go here at the this flight lieutenant Tina Okosizi Amoka by force. And now, what commandeer. Archers and Kobe Petrus. Tiabasa, no, and Satabo Dr. Wellington, and an army commander. He was assisted by a certain army officer called Major Silly Mana. Almost mobilized some troops, no starting some chase young boy. Some got told Air Force at the Muwagan and I quack tab name baby. Now, just a ma or more at the chain. Ain't he? Omo de no buy ya. You better try no. Now okay can say mu nyina na de e man na popular kura man kofo budget no so. Omo bisa ne say, "Wo your officer, you try separately from other ranks." And I also no. I want to be tried with my men.
So leave my men alone.
I say, "Leave my men alone." Yes. I take full responsibility. Just say, "So brave you know show you no." And them say a ginger support. Then you're sure say Boachijan felt very guilty at that point. Say, if you amen my betray, Madame Fui. So when you Boachijan, time of Rawlings over the Boachijan and
the best man.
The best man. So into a mercy, you're sentencing and down for no to death by firing squad. Probably due to his own omission or whatever it is, It wasn't surprising. Say, Onwa Boachijan and lead the June 4th movement, Emma Yedikoyi Rawlings free prison at that time. So, Rawlings is so bad, you know. He wasn't, you know, he came and told the whole world, they say, we are going to pursue a revolution in Yoku. Now the question then was, Ghana was preparing to go for democratic elections. Now, very few weeks.
5 weeks.
Yes.
Prior to generation, yeah. Civilian election.
And what kind of revolution? And I'll be to me a year. Just a civilian government ba untiminde. The pressure was put on the AFRC to do what they at that time they called it house cleaning exercise.
Yes.
Omo house cleaning no na omo hand it over a civilian government. Na sabi ukofie na se clean fie ho no ma se mpanimfo e wo fie ho no na ochechi wo first.
This house cleaning exercise no. Do you feel say adoption and is this something I bring a bitterness among some part of the country?
You know, the house cleaning exercise, you know, in fact, they were kept in limbo. They didn't know what to do. What they decided, and they say, okay, any officer who has overthrown a legitimate government, an elected government to be ano, they do not to the first corporates of people they be punish them. So, and any officer who is also seen to be have acquired wealth through corrupt means, any civilian who is seen to have acquired wealth through you know, unjustifiable means, all these people will be cleaned. In the other stages in PNDC started and almost a champion because a champion was then the immediate coup maker Yachino. Now Honumana almost say there was something called equalization. They realized that ukume champion kwa Rebecca say na other coup makers in this way. And I say why say Mokuma Akani. And then for no reason, a coachy utaka Rebecca need the can ball, some perform you need to. So, your ball mutuono, and you say, wow, what Ghana, meaning say no when you near. Now, Rawlings not the Legona any base, or qua no about no big central cafeteria, and yet among 4 big young men here because Kuchano let the blood flow, let the blood flow, let the blood flow. So,
because students.
Yeah, students. Look at students.
Your understanding of it, you know. Do you feel say students no more understanding of it and I said
students had been fighting the military regimes for all this while. Your friend Aluta, say Okaya.
Yes.
Aluta continua. To move on, say Aluta continua. Oma military officers na muye ku ni na yenku. So that was the meaning of the let the blood flow. So meanwhile, also civilians who were deemed to be corrupt were also targeted. And how were they targeted? What you want money afro? Yes, what could I we say? Then we establish what you may taxes and what you say. Yaje. So, also what you may then yaje. And it's a ya. Around that time, they confiscated a lot of Ghanaian owned enterprises and foreign owned enterprises as well.
Remember what was so, but these are citizens. Any civilian who has acquired wealth and deemed to be corrupt, you know, were either killed or adopted during that time. Now, did this solve the problem? Looking at the current situation where we are in terms of corruption in our country, did this solve our problem?
Oh, okay.
And look at them. Before you said that you are summarizing. You are cutting short.
Okay.
You know,
because of time
we need to go through the genesis
history, yes.
so that people will understand why certain things happened. Try to make sure. I've now explained to you how HOURThe and a champion were executed, right? And now I am giving you some of the companies that were confiscated by the PNDC in the early hours. Because so Achimota, okay, I said near Tata Brewery, which was owned by Siam, that was confiscated. Now you have VW Vehicle Assembly Plant, which was owned by Mr. Usu near Kowus Motors, that was confiscated. Alti Briscoe, they were the main agents of Mercedes-Benz in Ghana. It was confiscated. Boache Mattress, Boache Mattress, yeah. Boache Mattress was also confiscated. There was a man called Dakmak Group of Companies. Yes. He had lots of businesses. In fact, apart from the big building now, Isitudu, which was then Dakmak House, are selling in our shops. Now our textile tricot, and a manufacture textiles. No company air bulbs. No company air paint. No company fabricating metals, bolts and nuts. All these things were confiscated. We Dakmak free Honomwa. There was another guy, Lebanese, called Fatah. Fatah was the owner of auto parts. Now, Omona assemble bus be near friend UD bus. In fact, later on, I became the manager of the vehicle assembly plant when it was under government. You know, I managed it for a while. And Ghana ni be near friend Kudusa Din. My name is what in the Mr. Yemo. No, no, so big factory that was Laboni, the friend of ICAP. It was confiscated. I know of another Ghanaian who had then brought in this company, AA. You know, Krumha AA. No? Yeah. Not those days when I'm Ponano Ufri Usu Oko Labonia on the right Honum, a Honum and AA, and also some just a businessman be a Sabi. Would you my air pick it up? Your business was confiscated. That was one way that the economy was being destroyed. Then on the political front, so among forces let the blood flow. And who are going to be the next stream of officers? So, Nanona, we shall not just say PNDC members. I don't know it was SMC 2 members. So you could talk about Feli, you could talk about Kote, Yabwachi, who was the Air Force commander. All these were forces commanders. You know, in the army we have. So Ochichi we know a honuna na sense otiya. That's what forces commander. Na akwo Medumi was the Air Force, wasn't it? Yeah. Yes. I know. We say Aka Akwebi Mampom, Krobo, a free fan. On the Dikus in a by Timonkofa or so. My yenya 6 people. No, you do almost a sokobo, them a ball mutu. So now it got to a point. Who said, so one stop, there will be no limit to who should be shot and who should not be shot. But the killings didn't end there. Because at that time, you know, not the other ranks, you know, and so much power, say, they had taken the law into their own hands. And when a beba na wona woton, because they call glamour so, not 2 officers or maba, Everybody know me so you na don't come. I'm gonna check price I say we turn. The idea we turn be a 2 cedis or say mateso they about 1 cedi. E woni amount for a 2 aguso. You know. Now there was a term and it is still a term. So we in Kalabuli. Yeah? Kalabuli anything. In business or in trade. Now,
taking advantage of
the PNDC thought to say kalabule ewo edwom nko a nti se ogugu edwa na where kalabule ase. So he decided to target the market women in Accra. Now if you target the market women in Accra, ehin na omodoso. Makola,
yes.
So now Makola market no a uhunu sa no. Sebe English Bruni Goggisberg development plan. It was part of it. Say uko share the area view of Accra. Na Ushe University of Ghana the way I want building, you know. Oba Central Accra area view the way I want building Makola market, you know. It was supposed to be like the warehouse for businesses. A man for Accra normal, a honey be go, be hinterlands ba, a honey beton normal. Na omodeko. Papa si a honum na kalabule na adoso pa. Here we are kete. Wo wini ho no ma wimo and also soja for a koe and no ko bulldoze what they call it Makola marketing. So now and what you know ni 1 year 2 years bibia sign Ghana ka say for about 4 years na come beef pa if come beef me who be that.
Yeah, been saying at for.
Oh, I'm talking about 1982, 1983.
83,
Yes, unfortunately for Ghanaians, you know, 1983 had a serious drought.
Yeah,
Serious drought into Hebrona ma, Bodiana.
That's it.
Bayra ma. So. And then I'm also so ebini hobobo.
That was the year I mean so obi and kwane nam.
We dey say oye and kwane nam we.
Kwane kra de wanya bi na waye.
She. That na meditation ngwa. Ya so ya do pa 5. Ni Abatishi town, Abesan line. Ma me no a obo dokono no. You say one dokono no bi o. Every time I say odikosi gaso no se ma me de ma me 3 na me am kofi amekwa kono ama de. Ukochoba na kodidi na yesa kwangu ufufu so u chance na se so what adibia na efe no Rawlings chain no obi anya bi mpa 4 years say ade so ti e ba sada kwesibochi na ne ade finance minister. What could they do? They had to go and beg the IMF to come and bail us out because almost price control system now on the buy it wasn't working. It only led to shortages of goods and services. The factories that were given away were poorly mismanaged. The owners had all run into exile. I remember Mr. Siamse Obabi Wuahano, Tata Brewery, you know. The Graf Johnson, they all ran away. Mr. Kowus Motos, he had to run away. And the young boys that were put in charge of these seized factories had no working experience in industry and commerce. Commerce is quite the same thing. But to work an industry, you could go. There was one of our factories. Sorry, workers no nyejuma. Other than also boiler no, intimate pump BB and you know the textile machines. You know. When him said it took, we had to call the director engineering to come to the factory. Oba ya, osina ade wobo maintenance officer needing. Oni ho. That one amejuma. Oba ya say na. No book it to evidence or turn on the other way for the thing to start working. And that is the caliber of workforce that we had in most of our seized companies. And you know how to say, a big company like GIHOC, and you know GIHOC, those days, we had GIHOC Pharmaceuticals. I know my APC news paracetamol near the day, Wachimota. In some way we had GIHOC Cannery, the one which was later sold to Nana Kwendu. So what yeah, Then Uba at the wage honoma near Gihok Brick and Tiles. Industrial area, Utani, just opposite farm milk. We had Gihok distilleries. They say Honumna Kofi Juma you know, Gihok has so many. The shoe factory in Kumasi, tomato in Pualugu, all these factories went down. A Suchari sugar factory went down. Commander sugar factory went down. Even at the Saman Boy, our normal export to lumber and timber, and we're producing plywoods. They also went down. Main timbers. So the economy literally came to a standstill. You know, until they came with their structural adjustment program, you know, and the IMF started dictating terms, and it was this squeeze on the economy, and the fact that, and some Americans, so within this period, you know, not the membership of the AFRC, the PNDC, you know, had changed considerably, because when they came to power, who were the members of the PNDC? You had John Rawlings as the chairman, Brigadier Nunu Mensah, who was brought from retirement. Then we had this Reverend Damwa. I don't know any one of you met him. He was a very powerful reverend. He also later resigned and went and set up his own church. Then we have Warrant Officer J. Bwadi. Then we have Alorga Akatapori. After Akatapori, he is still with us here.
Yeah, he's here.
I don't know if you have met him before.
No.
Yeah, I've met him before.
Alorga, I've heard the name. I know he's.
Oh, he's in the
here.
UK. Yeah, he's in London.
In the UK here. Yeah.
Then if you remember.
I understand. Say what Chiro Buku Kranti or see what Chiro.
Oh, one Chiro. Of Chiro, I'm saying Sembe Kumpa. You know the reason why he also had to leave Ghana. You know, I did any training. Joachim Amatekwe. You remember? Almost sentencing to death. For the murder of the three judges and one military officer, and Chris Atim. These were the original members. Now, at the time they were handing over, let's see if you can see any of these members there. We had Jerry still as chairman. Then they have brought in Justice F.D. Annan, you know, to give the.
But one of our viewers want to know, why do you think that Akatapoli, they all have to leave?
We are coming. Then they brought in Alhaji Idrisu Mahama. Do you see that the names are now people with experience? Justice Annan, you know, a high court, appeal court judge. Alhaji Idrisu Mahama, a seasoned politician. Then he brought the master architect of the coups, Captain Kojo Chikata. Then P.V. Obeng, you know, who had been an advisor to, in fact, at some point he was the chief of staff to Rawlings. Now he was member of the PNDC, the PNDC. Then another officer who was retired and brought back was General Kwenu, Anwar Kwenu. Then Air Vice Marshal Dumashi, as for him, he deserved his position. He had risen through the ranks and had become the commander of the Air Force. And we had Dr. Mrs. Grant. So you see that the people who staged the coup in 1981, by 1992, not a single one of them remained a member. All of them had gone for one reason or the other. And if we are to go through the reasons, like somebody said,
yeah, they want to know.
I can give you one particular example how some of these things, how some of these people fell apart.
Just or leave, but they don't say nothing, and then they go into exile.
Yes. You know, I had a very good friend at Legon who was called Kwesiedu. I don't know if you have heard about Kwesiedu. You know, he was a very good and close friend of Jerry Rawlings and Nana Kunedu. Right? when Jerry was retired from the army, in fact, Legon was virtually the place he could come because he had been banned from going into military installations. The same thing applied to General Kwenu. So you will see Jerry's car in front of Chachuchi Carter's bungalow at Legon, you know, either at the students' mess, we call it student cafeteria, or a senior member, either a lecturer or whoever can take him to the senior common rooms. Otherwise, they were not allowed to go to any public place. And these people then used the university as a jumping ground to win the socialist club, including my friend Kwesi Edu, Zaya Yebo, Kodo Kamasa, who became the Volta regional minister. You know, my own good friend Kwesi, they used to call him Vadis. Vadis was at the castle. Then we had the one who became NACOP head, Akresi Sapong. You know, these were the student support group for the revolution, right? But when things started going certain ways, and you were not in agreement or in favor, you had two choices. Either you fight it head on, and either win or lose. And if you lose, you know what will happen to you. I mean, I don't need to tell you. If you cannot fight and win, your best bet is to leave. So if I give you the example of my friend Kwesi, for example, the keys that were used to go, the keys of the car, the Fiat Campagnola, that was used to go and abduct the judges and the army officer to be killed, the key was handed over to the driver by Kwesi Edu. And he picked it from the table of Mrs. Kunedu, either in the kitchen or in the sitting room, right? And that gave an indication that the PNDC knew something about how the judges were killed. So even though initially there was a flat denial, the snippets of information that were coming were leading to who knew what, who did what, you know.
That was 30th of June,
Yeah.
1982.
Right? Who knew what, who did what. And then there was a video that came where some of these group of students who were like Cummins and Boris Johnson here, they were literally the advisors, yeah? The ideological advisors of the PDCs and the WDCs. When they realized that it got to a point where the net was catching up with them, the best thing they could do was to leave, right?
And if I could come in quickly.
Okay. Yes.
I think that every revolution, it consumes its own people. Once Mayekuna Vienna revolution assassinate, the insecurity sets in, especially from the point of the leadership, which is in this case Jerry Rawlings. He became a bit insecure. So like Mr. Ajimai said, at a point you have to make a decision. And most of these people, some of them were a bit enlightened. And at a point, I think the agenda of the year revolution, they veered it. The Rawlings veered from the principle. So most of them probably were not taking orders again from him. And then if you are not taking orders, it means if you are not for me, you are against me. So like I said, the revolution itself.
Why? Who feels that no one person will take orders again?
Well, it's because I'm saying that some of them became enlightened, and the fact that we are fighting for this cause, at the point we see our leader veering off that course. So if you are enlightened and if you are intelligent enough, you will advise yourself and probably try to withdraw. But at that point, you cannot withdraw. Like I said, if you are not for me, then you are against me. If you are not for the revolution, and in that case, Rawlings, then it means you are against Rawlings. So like Mr. Jima rightly said, at a point, all the hands around Rawlings were the inexperienced ones.
They had to take a decision whether to confront Jerry Rawlings or
to leave.
To leave. I won't say foolish. The foolish ones who try to confront. I will give you an example.
So then, you have not spoken about the masses. So what about the masses in terms of the way they were feeling?
The feeling of the masses, as you saw in the introductory clip, there is a junior Jesus who has come to redeem us, giving all these promises. He is coming to sweep away the corrupt politicians. He is going to make life easier for us. You know, people were hearing all this. And Rawlings is such a charismatic leader. You've got to be very careful. He will not mind sleeping in a tent for 1 month if that will preserve his position.
Yeah, that is where his populism...
He will go into the gutter and clean the gutter with the Ashaman guys if that will consolidate his position, right? He will blame someone else for the economic hardships, but not himself. You understand? So, in terms of the masses, JJ was, and in fact, as at now, JJ is revered by a lot of people, right? But for those who were close to him, they realized that probably we are not achieving what we came to achieve. We came in for probity, accountability, economic growth, this, that. Is that what we are getting? Why do you think somebody like Jiwa, have you heard about the name Jiwa? Have you heard about Jiwa?
Yes.
Lance Corporal.
Yeah? Where is he? Right? Jiwa was among the close people who attempted to confront using military force. In fact, I remember that the day they attempted the coup, I was in University of Cape Coast. I had gone to do some work, and I was in the chalets preparing to drive back to Accra when I heard the news that J.J. Rawlings had been overthrown. And I was with a friend, an army officer who was a major at that time. So the army officer said, Eric, we are not going to go today. Let's wait and see, because anything can happen on the way, you know. The announcement came at 6 o'clock. And around 12, 1 o'clock, I heard a voice of the then head of the military police, who became our Agric minister. What is his name? He's dead. Captain Courage Koshiga. Yes. I heard a voice of Courage Koshiga from the broadcasting house telling us that the coup has been foiled, right? And that is what led to the hunt for all those who attempted the coup. And when they were mentioning the names, a name popped up, and I said, what you sow is what you get. There was a particular lieutenant who had passed out from the military academy for about a year or two, and, you know, power drunk. He came to our company, the National Industrial Company. He wanted to see the marketing manager at that time. They brought him to me, said, we have arrested somebody on the Zongo junction, you know, opposite Bemakam. And he was wearing a kind of singlet that looks like a military uniform, you know. And when they inquired, he says he bought it from the National Industrial Company. Of course. And I remember I ordered those singlets, you know. They are check, like what I have under me, but some of them are green, some are yellow, and some are white. And the guy was wearing the green one, which, so far as the lieutenant was concerned, was a preserve for the military. So they needed to come and arrest the manager. So they took me to Gonda Barracks. And I waited there for about 4 hours before I was ushered in. My luck that day was that when I was ushered in, the officer who was sitting behind the table was Major Wallace Gwedema. And those days, in Tishinungwa, you come First Junction, Cocoa Street, Wallace House on the left, then you hit Hibiscus Street, and I was living on the right. So we knew ourselves. Eric, what brought you here? And I explained I said, let the man go. That is how I was saved. And this guy who came to arrest me was one of the officers who led the Jiwa coup. And the day they caught them in the, Anokwenu chased them to a house in Dansuman and went and blasted, That is how that officer died. And that is how they chased and got to Jiwa also and, killed him. So like I'm saying, to the question of the person who asked why the people like Kamasa and others ran away, you either live and stay with the system and keep quiet, confront it and be killed like those who were killed, or what will you do?
And a lot of civilians.
You tell me about that. You remember the case of the Goka brothers?
Yeah, I think I've heard about the Goka brothers. Kwaku spoke about it extensively.
The Goka brothers, I'll tell you about it. Because I knew some of them when I was living in Tema. Young boys. I'm far older than some of them. And one of them was even the younger brother of Wachijan. His name was Chemejan.
Chemejan, yeah.
Yes, he was part of the people who were executed. Right?
Yeah, I think Kwaku met all of them in prison, I think so.
Yes, so I was call in and share. So we will be about Rawlings. Whatever message I want, feel free and calling. And no man who was screening, so why not share? Okay, go on.
Goka and others were arrested for attempting to overthrow the. And I remember attending every single of the court cases, which was held at the tribunal building, which is now housing our parliament. Right, that is where the case was held. Why was I going there? My senior brother was among the 11 people who had been accused. He was then the commercial bank manager in Japikrum, in Brahafo. And unfortunately, a classmate of Boachijan at the university, right? And somehow, in the interrogation of Chemejan, they realized that they call something contact tracing with COVID. Yeah? In tracing his contacts, they realized that he went and spent a day or two in Japekrum, visited my brother, who thought that he had seen the younger brother of his classmate, gave him some money to use as transport money. And because of that, he was also roped in as part of the people who were planning the coup, In fact, it is by God's grace that he was the only person who was unacquitted and discharged from that case. All the rest, all the 10 people were sentenced to death by firing squad. And I don't need to go and tell you the kind of torture that these people went through, because we met some of them in the washroom of the State House for them to show what they had done to them, their backs and, even their decks, what they had done to them. So, yes, people who knew what was going on chose to leave. And it was when they left that they actually came and confessed some of the things that they have done. Up till now, right? Can anybody tell me where the then chief of Abri, Nana Osai Intefua Bibio, popularly known as Bibi Bismarck, where is he? He was abducted in the night. And up till now, nobody knows. But people from inside comes to tell you.
Thank you. Citizen, oh, Bibi can't hear Mr. Ajimanaka after Rawlings in terms of the journey coming up, the coup time, then after coup, the people that only Omoye coup in the end, a lot of the Omoye feel. Okay, one by one.
Okay, Metia, yes. I think say historical antecedents in Mr. Ajiman, who has lived it, knows better than better than me. So I think so when it comes to the historical antecedents, Wakania, I was a T for a T, which is good. Which are some of the events, it predates it predates me or some of them. No, now I was probably really young, but thank God there's history for everyone. Once there's history in India, that doesn't matter. Say event in the sea, and now now we came to read it, and we came to since we became politically active, we read some of them and we relived it. I think said Jerry Rawlings, like I said, you can't complete Ghana's political history without him, whether good or bad. He's got his good side, he's got his bad side. But I think
you mentioned something. You have the good side, and then you said what?
The bad side. It's the good side and the bad side.
Okay. Some of the good side now you claim to be good, and then some of the
well,
bad
let's start from the bad side. That's where it all started.
Okay.
Like I said, Mr. Jimai, one of the historical antecedents, events involved, which I've already says some of it even predates me and Mitihai. The bad side, and they say
some of it
predates, yes, of course.
Okay. Can you bet me can home kakra? I'm at here for
I
know that. Me and one, but you buy the obeti kakra na
obeti and of course, them times, you cannot blame the masses so much. The impression has been created, say, Penifonu ADD. And they can point to say one who will be that will not be known for. And that is the style of all revolutionists. And
do you think that as Ghanaian youth or Ghanaians in general, this is the way we are?
Well,
I'm talking about the masses.
That is not the way we are. And
do we accept and easily accept things with change, no matter the circumstances?
Well, times have changed. Then there's not even media. It's just one media house or two controlling the minds of the whole country. Okay? So what the system churns out is what the masses feeds on. So the masses have been made to believe, say, because of the system in Tina Mobre, and the masses are suffering.
But this issue, which I think, say, before the Nakameba, but now Mr. Ajimai goes through the background information, historical information. But media corruption, which I'm still going on.
Okay.
Has it changed all this time? No. Now we come to it.
Well, it hasn't changed that much.
You see, this is what I will say, and I will hope that any adventurous politicians, and there are a lot of them about, even under the civilian dispensation, right? If you look at my own NPP, when President Kufuor was due to leave power and hand over, how many people were chasing to be president? Even after vetting, we had 17 people who wanted to be president. And I remember at that time writing an article about people examining themselves before they go out to seek certain positions, that the unexamined life is not worth living. And human nature by itself, when you are in a less advantageous position, you always anticipate a change that will make your life better. That is why we call Ghana asoye no ebu obi afi se okọ nokobo yankopon mpaye na osofo ma no ngosra no oye akire akwankyire kakra bi a the lifestyle mesesa. So every populist politician will try to tell the masses what they want to listen or what they want to hear.
They study the mood of the system, the mood of the masses. So, like I said earlier on, Ampana system nimu enye, and it wasn't because of leadership, but system no enye. But then, when we say leadership, obida kamu, one and form. And if you say even having 2 toilets in your house became a crime and stuff like that.
Or having more than one house.
Bank became a problem, all because of systems. So until then, you can't blame the masses so much. That was the order of the day. But Rawlings had his chance. He had his way. He sang what the masses want to hear. He spoke the masses' language. And like Mr. Jimai said, when he was being tried and he said, leave my man alone, I'm responsible. It takes bravery for somebody who is at the point of death. No, we say, from that room, probably the next spot was going to be, execute, for him to stand bold and say, ginger the whole nation. And if you go to the universities, everybody is calling for the blood to flow. If you everywhere, and leadership, saying, masses and everybody is calling for blood to flow. Everybody is singing Rawlings' praise. Let the blood flow. So therefore, when we say revolution are successful, nobody beyond the masses will support. Well, lives were lost. And Kenda, we will call for fair trials before Ansana but then it was a military regime. Among for Papanumo, among for yes, in 1979, I think Liman by Lima or handing over to Lima.
Look, let me talk about Liman and JJ coming back, right? You see, the agenda, I don't know if you have heard about the secret society that they formed. They called it PAM. Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
Pan-African movement, that was the original motive of the May uprising, which didn't work, right? And the idea was to liaise with other revolutionary leaders in Africa and the world to fight what they call the neo-colonialists, right? But when they came as AFRC, pressure was put so much on them that they had to abandon that initial idea and hand over to to a civilian rule. Go back and watch the video where Jerry was handing over to Liman. There was a small statement like, your government is on probation, right, to Liman. And it gives an indication that, yes, the man is handing over, but he's going to sit back and watch if Liman would do the things that they plan to do, which they were not given the opportunity to do, but now Liman has got the power to do it, right? So when he came to realize that the things that they were believing that Liman regime was unable to resolve the neo-colonial economic dependency, Rawlings led a second coup against Liman. Right?
The country's economy was deteriorating. The
yes,
argument or they buying.
That's what I'm saying. And when he came, the first thing he did was to invite all the world revolutionary leaders like he invited Desi Bouterse, of Suriname, who was a revolutionary leader at that time. You remember Daniel Ortega? Yes. Rawlings invited Daniel Ortega to Ghana. And in Namibia, you remember Sam Nujoma? These were names that if you mention, it invokes nationalism, revolutionary zeal. Gaddafi came to visit Rawlings. I remember coming with his big airplane and his own car, car, yeah. Everything, he brought it. Right? So he came in 1981 to finish what he was not allowed to do. Because when they handed over, if you remember, all of them were given scholarships to travel outside Ghana. If I remember very well, my good friend, Mensa Bwedema, who was member of the PNDC, he went to Canada to study. And Wachijan was here, right? And the others, I think there were 4 officers, including Rawlings. Rawlings refused to go. Rawlings was the only person who remained in Ghana. And lo and behold, he was able to stage a comeback and take over the country, and run it the way he wanted. But the unfortunate thing is that he lacked the men with the experience, the knowledge, and the expertise to uplift the economy. If he had got good economic managers in those times, and the country did not slip into recession as it did by 1983, Rawlings would still have been a hero, and nobody would have forced him to leave the scene.
Citizen, is there any lessons that you are learning with all this journey?
Oh yes, some of the lessons are very conspicuous. Cooler, I was say nipa biano. Why dream? I was say ubia ayebone. I was say woman fair trial, and that is what we didn't get with Rawlings. Why dream? I was say ubia bokro no. Why dream? I was say ubia koji. I use influence. Akwa koji loan. Ayebone. I was say wukuno. I think those are lessons going forward, and I'm saying Ghana for yes, say give people the chance to explain themselves at the law in the law courts, which is a lesson for everyone. Another lesson, so they say, Nyakupon boy, and we cannot all be
equal.
We can't be equal. There's always going to be the downtrodden. Bimbo was through bimbo form. And don't consume your beer back catcher or say, will be all top on the did you or nunti and a come edo or nunti na wun yiska or nunti and a wunti minya jumanya because I be crum high tea. Yawagana Yadri say everything is rosy here. But the situation we see back home, the same situation, ebiwaha. Some because the opportunities are available, but they don't want to make a move to grab it. Some probably because of formal stature in the community, education level, so all these are lessons are going forward. And I was say, yes, you who say,
so as a party, link it in terms of the lessons. For example, MPP policy.
Well, the lessons, they say, also leadership must be able to implement policies. The masses down there can take advantage of to elevate themselves. If jobs opportunities are there, I was for everyone. If it is farming, the opportunity is there. The policies are friendly enough for you to go into farming. Say school na wakwa, leadership must be able to provide an opportunity for graduates to be able to work and earn whatever they have to earn at the end of every month. Banisana a man for any ebifi leadership. Now, because we will be the devil, I find it work for the idle hands. So Bia will be Bia, and yeah, dear, will be Becca be actually be a mano idea the holy without necessarily sieving it to know say near all cano sanity and I say and yes sanity. And for the masses to be able to sieve through, no, they must get education. How do we get education? And education must be for all, regardless of your status in the country. It should be free for all. So if you ask me from the party viewpoint, say, then yeah, I can tell you, say, these are the things I was a party be our we now man for enya ajuma.
One of the viewers say they are now happening both in our political arena, no? With MPs campaigning and people campaigning, giving things, to voters, to win their votes, will be killed by Rawlings.
Well, he couldn't.
Would have been killed by him.
No, he couldn't cure it. His time was worse, isn't it? Now the man is dead, so we want to.
I know we do
inside, but
I would say what politicians in Ghana, the legacy that Rawlings has given to politicians in Ghana, is that it takes men to stage a revolution, but it takes brains to run an economy, right? So if you look at Rawlings when he came in, the kind of people he surrendered himself with in the initial stages. His own cousin, Kojoli, what did he do? Did you hear about his own cousin going to pull a pistol and killing somebody in Tema? Rawlings had to sacrifice his own cousin. It was a lesson that he learned. Is it AFRC or is it Amatekwe had to be sacrificed because of the excesses involving the death of the 3 judges, right? At the end of his 20 years, let's look at the kind of people that Rawlings was working with. And when you see the kind of people, you will see that he has now come to appreciate the essence of education, skills, experience, knowledge, culture, tradition, right? At the helm of his administration, just like in our case, where Safo is now, he had P.V. Obin. He was the chairman of the committee of secretaries. Those days we didn't have ministers, we had secretaries. And P.V. Obin, if you know him, is an astute industrialist and businessman and politician. I met him at Mankwazi, in my school days when I was in 6th form. And he came to join the PNDC, my post-university days. And he became chief of staff, and at the time Rawlings was going, he was like the senior minister at that time. He had Obed Asamoah as his foreign affairs manager, secretary. Obed is a seasoned lawyer, an experienced politician. In fact, Obed at some point belonged to the Dankwa Buzia Dombo tradition. He's been in politics for a very long time. Dr. Kwesi Boche, who is now Professor Kwesi Boche, was his finance minister for so many years. Without him, he wouldn't have been able to manage the economic affairs of the country to the point that he did. Then we had, when it came to defense, he didn't play with his defense. Rear Admiral C.K. Jan was his defense minister. Then when it came to Attorney General, we had Attorney General Akins, one of the most eloquent lawyers and a tutor at the Ghana Law School, right? Joyce Ayi, who is now a priestess, or in the ministries, he became his education minister. Then, if you look at Secretary for Chieftaincy Affairs, he went for the Omahene of Agogo, Nana Ekuokusapo, as the Minister for Chieftaincy Affairs, a very respectable Omahene. In fact, our own John Ejekun Kufuor served under Rawlings as the Secretary for Local Government. You know that?
Yeah, I think a few months.
A few months, but at least it shows that he came to appreciate the quality of people. And Muhammad Idrisu, Minister for Transport and Communication, with Kwame Pipra in charge of. So you will see that gradually he's told us, or he's giving us a scenario or a case study for our young politicians to learn that it is good to educate yourself, upscale yourself, be an apprentice under seasoned politician, learn yourself up, and it will minimize the mistakes that you will do when the position is given to you. I think this is some of the legacy that modern politicians, whether MPP or NDC, will get from the legacy of Rawlings.
Okay. Citizen, how would Ghanaians remember Rawlings?
Oh, well,
if they have to describe you in terms of how are we Ghanaians, in your view, remember?
Well, currently, if you ask me, I'm at a point in his political life, let me limit it to during democratic dispensation. I can say now he wasn't liked that much, probably because of the public discourse. Sema na or kana obia expect to say he would live his life as a statesman, but not he wasn't, because of how usikanisem.
Boom boom.
I think say me na na ka say me say edrum brebi a penyi wo fear. Sometimes you lie to make sure say you bring the community together. Anya send bia na eka no krabi wo ho ka ebo mine and a bokru. So when it gets to that level, na say we penyini papa, you lie a bit to make sure say the community, that's what stay.
But in front of I won't say they should lie, but what they have a way of preventing anarchy and chaos.
Well, if you want to say it, it's a kind of krena a day. Intichemu beba kronu and as a busienwa, he will either shut up.
That's right. Or wakasebe tu minayesi so.
So probably Mr. Jim, I don't want me to call it a lie. But sign and penny for a canon says a doom rebia, we a penina, we did draw to make sure say Abusiano ever stay together. And I think said that was what Rawlings lacked. He was still in that youthful, he wasn't a youth. He has become an elder, but that youthful exuberance, was still there. A military man, close to 20 years. So he was still active. And I think the attention now, at that time, he's still yearning for that attention, which he loves so much. And Tina the Kasamu, now the Bibia, so at a point, now Adodankwa Akufo-Addo, now the president of the Republic of Ghana, and withdraw. I know not per se, but the NPP government withdrew his courtesies, but it was restored back. During the last years, we also said he came into that statesmanship mood. Was all right. So yes, two ways. In a very sad and a regrettable manner, based on the revolutionary Juma or affect Nipa Bebre.
So final word about Rawlings.
Oh, final words about Rawlings. Ye crew, ye can be say obi wa ye cannot see
somebody.
Somebody. But like I said, ye limit yourself to the recent posture. Not what take. He is a statesman. We all accept that. Why you be? Like I've always said, me citizen, if I see somewhere and say Rawlings or if we are, then yes, I'm not saying say on farm block or currency, but we are only looking at time on a revolution. So what's the point and Kumasi to Accra? You don't need parliamentary approval. It need that within few months or few years without questioning. But you had 20 years. It is me as a communicator, me can say Rawlings or here. Now what I'm trying to say is looking at the time and years I was sanka waiting the Ghana edu baby edu went me and do but like Mr. Edman say he surrounded himself with inexperienced hands. Rawlings himself as a person meant well for Ghana and for himself. But at the end of the day, you need lieutenants to work for you. If they don't have the good intention, like one kasana, what the aim and the objective to make sure it's a woman for BD, it won't be possible. So yes, good and the bad. With Rawlings, you can't really point to just one thing. A good and the bad. But I'm saying, during these last years, he behaved and stayed as a statesman, and probably and I'm say, yeah, the best say he's a good man. He had good intention for the country. I don't think stage cool. No think is say cool. No everybody be a home at all. But to be a home Anton Salmon. Until I medical my example be said. Near yes, film and they say Ubia ni ho betiama Ubia home at all. Amana Nemum leadership. I was say what did Norma egu akwan na Ubia who conspicuously said Norma would egu akwan no me faswa metimi adi. Say my brabo. If the opportunity is there and the masses refuse to grab it, now a brabo and you can't blame leadership. So going forward, leadership must ensure say opportunities will be available for everyone in Ghana who is ready to grab that opportunity. Back kind of sense, so the opportunity could be there. Will be our own making effort out of laziness and out of ignorance to grab that opportunity. But if it is there, at least few people can prompt the rest to know, say, the opportunity is there for you. We will square. The opportunity is there for you to be able to work. Not only in the government sector, but farming, cocoa farming, and farming in general. And I think say, you can't separate the good from the bad when it comes to Rawlings. But Sana America Kai, the Nipa who I am Kanachi, Asem Bonnie, and in the last days, or the last years, in the latter years, na brabo our boy na yedi. I can say he did his part. Why yet the part? Bakofo entimi yeni na enwie.
Thank you.
Omu you can't bring them back.
Yeah, that was it. It's argument. What you in terms of closing analysis, how Ghanaians will remember Rawlings?
Oh, Ghanaians will remember Rawlings just like the English also remember Robin Hood, right? Everything about Robin Hood had the good, the bad, and the ugly. In the same way, Rawlings' history, what he did as head of state, how he composed himself as the leader of the NDC, how he has comported himself as a statesman, particularly lately, shows a big transformation of, excuse me to use the word, somebody who appeared to be naive, right from the word go, and now somebody who is so experienced that if he were to have had a revolution now, there are so many things that he wouldn't have done. If you look at his, or you listen to his interview on why FIFA was brought into the firing squad, he said that FIFA was not part of the list. but he was prevailed upon by a senior officer that at that time, naive young officer as he was, he had so much respect for that if the senior officer directed that, go and bring this man and add his name, he would do it. But now, he wouldn't do it, right? So, like I'm saying, the man has got the good parts, the ugly parts, the bad parts, but in sum total, he has left a memorable legacy, and I'm sure his history is going to be a material for academic studies, particularly in politics, you know, and that we are going to thank God for his life. He came to do some, but he couldn't do all. And we will pray that the Almighty grants him a peaceful place in his bosom. The Almighty is the Almighty who forgives those who truly repent. And I would like to assume that after the reconciliation exercise and everything that went on, Jerry Rawlings became a repentant, remorseful person who probably has prayed to the Almighty for forgiveness, and probably the Almighty has forgiven him, and that is why he has decided to take him out of this earth now. So may his soul rest in peace.
Thank you, Mr. Eric Ajimai. Secretary to the Council of Elders, NPPUK, and also Mr. Citizen Owusu, and also Sewusu. Citizen, Mr. Citizen Sewusu. Mr. Citizen Sewusu, and also you're part of NPP Communication Team UK. And Damase for this program, NPP Hour. Thank you very much, every viewers. Money I go through, and I'm also moving here. Neche, da mungi na ase. Na also Joe Bedu, that was say, CEO and also producer and also Sister Danswa. Good night, everyone. Good night. God bless you. Good night.
But you better listen to me carefully. Until I left all my life together with that of my wife, until I left office, schooling, officer, and until I left office in the year 2000, I never had a foreign account. Never. The CIA, the German intelligence, British MI5, your Italians, the French, all of you go and look into every bank account and to tell the world whether my wife and I ever had $1, 1 penny anywhere in any bank in any part of the world before I left office. I never did. Interestingly, and it never occurred to me, I had no desire for it. The only time it struck me that I needed a foreign money was when my wife was ill. And it was a situation we could not deal in my country, in Ghana. And we looked for the most affordable place, which was in a university in Europe. That was the first time I suddenly realized how naked I was in terms of, I couldn't even save my wife's life, a very noble lady who had been through trying times with me. That's when I started calling around the world, friends, can you help, etc. So having no account, oh, by the way, before I left office, we knew she was going to have this operation, so we had even put a little money aside. I think it was about $22,000 it was going to cost us. My wife is asthmatic, and over the years, it has developed its side effects, both in her intestines and other complicated places. So it was going to be quite an expensive, this thing. And you listen to me carefully. I was looking around the world, anybody help me? It's not for myself. I have no account. This is the address of the hospital. This is how much it's going to cost. I mean, it was the most shocking, painful experience I'd been across, that I could hardly get any assistance early enough. My government, who knew, the new government, who had taken over from me, who knew I needed help and that we had made preparations, refused. On the last day before we were to leave, she was supposed to be on the operation table on the 22nd of a certain month. 2 days before, that's when I got a letter from the president's office, a 3-page letter, conditions I had to fill, a whole lot of rubbish. We got a ticket, we flew to London. This president, or this man who was a president, who